Welcome everyone to Marvel Hub. This is DK Dynamite, and I have no idea if these images are legit whatsoever, but apparently they come from somebody by the name of Defiant Inside Me that people are pointing out has not been a reliable source in the past, so take these images with a grain of salt. But these images started floating around everywhere all over the internet: Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, everywhere you can name, and these images contain what appears to be Tony Stark exiting a plane and walking towards a vehicle. But again, this is supposed to be Tony Stark's cameo in the Black Widow trailer, expected to drop in just a couple of days. Daniel RPK over on Twitter pointed out that the first Black Widow trailer is supposed to be dropping early in the morning on December the 3rd, with other trailers from other franchises to follow that week. So I would say next week's a huge week for major trailers out there for not only Black Widow, but also Birds of Prey, Wonder Woman 1984, as well as the last James Bond movie featuring Daniel Craig. But my question to you guys is, would they really spoil Tony Stark's cameo in the Black Widow trailer instead of saving that for a big surprise for the audience when you actually see the film? Because the other thing too is, this scene can't be that long. If it's a Tony Stark cameo that's apparently a deleted scene from Civil War, the scene can't be that damn long. So to see a fragment of that scene in the trailer kind of spoils it a little bit, and then seeing the actual scene in the movie itself, people will kind of be left underwhelmed that the scene really wasn't that long, because Robert Downey Jr. is definitely not shooting any new scenes that I know of for this movie. And as I brought up in previous videos too, I just don't think it's a smart idea to market Black Widow around this Tony Stark cameo, because there's probably people out there who are like, well, I don't want to watch a Black Widow movie, it's too little too late, you know, this is a decade too late, and no one's really interested in Black Widow anymore. She passed away in Endgame, so what's the point of seeing a film that's a prequel that probably doesn't have many stakes in it? And I get that argument 100%, but then to market that with a Tony Stark cameo would kind of feel like a bash in the face to his epic conclusion to his arc within Avengers Endgame. And as I also brought up many times in the past, if you're going to bring Tony back in any aspect, whether it be a What If series or a cameo in another Disney Plus exclusive, or, you know, a cameo in an Avengers movie, it's best to wait at least a couple of years, right? Maybe 5 to 7 years. You know, if they do an Avengers 5 in 6 years or so, it would be this huge shock effect to have a Tony Stark from a different timeline or a different universe make an appearance. It would be great for the audience. It'd be a nice surprise. Maybe by that time, when the Avengers 5 or 6 happens, Robert might be open to a cameo as Tony Stark again. But as of right now, I don't think he's ready to do a cameo, even if it's very small, for a character that he portrayed for, what is it, over 11 years and had this massive conclusion to his arc in Endgame. I'm not sure if he's ready to step back into those shoes and do something so soon. So if it is a deleted scene from Civil War, I'm sure they wouldn't want to spoil that in the trailer, but who knows, right? Maybe they'll just pull a tactic where they market the movie around this little cameo, get people excited, and then the actual scene in the movie really isn't that long. So we'll see in a couple of days if this is true or not. Again, December the 3rd, when the trailer drops, I have a live reaction to Black Widow here on this channel. But it's also funny how there were other pieces of information that were dropped, I think it was a day ago, that apparently Deadpool does not have a cameo in the post-credit scenes for Black Widow whatsoever, which I think is a smart move, because looking at that, you know, why would you introduce Deadpool in a movie about a character that really doesn't have much chemistry or relation to Deadpool whatsoever? So I think when it comes to a Deadpool cameo, save it for maybe Spider-Man 3 or, you know, any crazy film that involves a character that does interact a lot with Deadpool in the comics. So I'd rather go with that. And when it comes to any Fox assets too, I would say introducing the Fox assets has to be done in a very timely manner where it makes sense, where bringing them into the MCU makes sense for the narrative going forward. Whereas in Black Widow, that just doesn't really seem like it would work, because Black Widow is, of course, a prequel that does set up some major plot points for the future of the MCU, but I don't think Deadpool is any part of some of those major plot points. I think looking at the leaked script and leaked descriptions of the post-credit scene for Black Widow, it seems like the major plot points the movie is setting up has to do with General Ross, the Thunderbolts, the new Black Widow, Taskmaster, and some other crazy things involving the Red Room. But Deadpool doesn't really fit in with any of those plot points to begin with, so I don't think it makes sense to put him in there. And I think when it comes to Fox assets as well, Ant-Man 3 might play a really big role in introducing people like Fantastic Four and mutants and other things that could be tied to the quantum realm as well. We even have rumors of Doctor Doom coming out in a Black Panther 2, thanks to some unverified leaks and information from Charles Murphy, which I'll probably go in more detail with in an upcoming video or podcast, because there's a lot to talk about when it comes to a Fox asset like Doctor Doom being introduced in a big sequel like Black Panther. But besides that as well, in regards to a possible cameo from Tony Stark, Jeff Goldblum had commented about What If and how he recorded lines for the Grandmaster and kind of made it clear that, yeah, Robert Downey Jr. is doing voice work for a Tony Stark cameo. And the thing is, I don't think he necessarily saw Robert in person to confirm that, but maybe he heard a person that sounds like Robert that's going to be doing some type of voiceover work for a Tony Stark cameo in the What If series, but it wasn't from Robert. Maybe Jeff Goldblum misinterpreted that and thought it was him, so that's kind of where that information came from. It wasn't necessarily fake news out there in the media, but I think it was an exaggerated statement or a misinterpretation of what's actually going on with What If. But I definitely wouldn't be surprised to see Tony Stark as a character come out in the What If series, but I don't know if Robert's down to do any type of voiceover work or cameo shooting for a character that he has put to rest and claimed publicly he's put to rest for the time being. So I think he can probably change his mind 5 or 7 years from now when they do another big Avengers project where a cameo makes sense versus kind of taking the weight away from his epic conclusion in Endgame just to throw him into, you know, an episode or two of What If or a minute scene in Black Widow. It just doesn't feel like that really works right now. And I think, let's say 5 to 7 years from now, Robert's career just isn't doing well, right? Maybe his movies are flopping or he isn't having a good time doing other projects. Maybe then he'll just have an open mind about coming into various MCU projects. Maybe he'll produce something. Maybe he'll direct something. But as of right now, it doesn't really make sense to do that. But people out there also pointed out that they really don't want Tony to have a major influence on the plots of Black Widow. I think a deleted scene might fall into a gray area where it's like, okay, it's a deleted scene from Civil War. It kind of fits in with the timeline of this movie's plot. But we don't want Tony to really push the plot in any way where we have villains in the movie that are directly angered at Tony and are lashing out against Tony, but then Black Widow comes in to stop whatever that villain is, right? Kind of similar to Homecoming and Far From Home, where the villains of those two Spider-Man movies are really just enemies of Tony Stark, whether Tony's dead or alive or not. They're just hateful against him, and then you have a hero that comes in to stop whoever that villain is. Hopefully Black Widow doesn't take that approach, and I don't think it really will, based on the leaked script that really does line up with other plausible leaks that we've seen. So looking at that, I think it is a smart approach to get every hero in the MCU out of Tony's shadow, whether it's Spider-Man, Black Widow, Thor, get them all out of Tony's shadow. Make sure that no villains are really tied to Stark Industries or the character of Iron Man. Make these villains exclusive to whatever the hero is, whoever that hero is that's showcased in the movie itself, right? And I think going forward with the Spider-Man sequels too, I think they've let go of whatever that shadow was that was kind of looming over Peter in Homecoming and Far From Home. Kevin Feige himself confirmed that the whole point of Far From Home is to get Peter out of Tony's shadow. So for those out there who are upset with how Spider-Man's been handled in the MCU thus far, just know that his arc from Civil War to Far From Home is complete. His arc being in Tony's shadow and being a rookie is now over, and he's now going to be his own man with Spider-Man 3 and whatever future cameo appearances he has in the MCU. So feel relieved that that era is over. So I don't think Tony will ever have much influence on future Spider-Man villains or other future characters out there. I'd be okay with a Spider-Man 3 that introduces a Norman Osborn, and Norman Osborn is trying to be the new Tony Stark. I'd be okay with that because it makes sense for Peter to be like, okay, well, I just got over, Tony's death. I got out of his shadow. I'm my own man now. Now I have this dude named Norman who's trying to kind of take his place and be my new mentor or is secretly Green Goblin. I could see that plot point happening, but in a sense where Norman doesn't feel like a villain that's directly tied to Tony, that everything's about Tony. But him just mentioning him a few times in a future sequel, to me, is no issue. But hopefully for Black Widow, Tony's appearance doesn't necessarily drive the plot, but is just there to kind of fill in some gaps and make sense of what was happening in between Civil War and Infinity War without taking too much away from the core plot of the film. But let me know what you think of that down below in the comment section. This has been DK Dynamite. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and turn notifications on to stay up to date with latest and greatest Marvel news and information. Do you guys want a Tony Stark cameo? Do you not? How do you feel about Deadpool's cameo possibly happening in Phase 4, kind of setting up the mutants now joining the MCU? Leave all those thoughts down below, and peace out, everyone.